This tutorial will show you how to invoice a single project in Assistance PSA. In the Project module, go to Projects. In the list display, open the project you wish to invoice. Once in the project screen, go to the top bar ribbon and hit the Invoice button. PSA will bring you the list of all your billable items. In the header, you will find the number as well as the account name of your project. Invoice until date will always be the last day of the previous week. You can change the selection, however, if need be. By default, the name of your project will appear in the invoice description field, but you can also change it if need be. If you uncheck this box, PSA will bring you the list of all your project items. This is useful if you want to invoice a fixed fee that has no selling amount or a percentage of completion at 0. This is not the case here. Check the box. By default, today's date will be the invoice date. Again, you can change it if necessary. Now let's take a look at the billable project items. The first line is checked as time and material. In this case, the columns of the table will have the following definition. Amount corresponds to the actual hours booked so far, whether invoiced or not. Percentage to invoice will only display a value if the item is a fixed fee. It will then be based on the percentage of completion of the item. In the case of a time and material, PSA will invoice based on the actual hours booked, and so this field is blank because it is not applicable here. Invoiced will indicate the value billed to the client so far. Proposal amount corresponds to the value of booked hours covered by the billing period defined in the invoice header. By default, the proposal amount will be displayed here. Because this is a time and material item, it is not possible to overwrite this field. The next two fields are related to expenses and products respectively, and as such will show up with a 0 value here. Go back to the very first column and click the magnifying glass. PSA will display the details of the hours included in this invoice. Because the hours have been approved, you do not have the option to modify the lines here. You can decide, however, to put them on hold. For more information on this subject, please refer to the related tutorial. You do not want to put hours on hold. Close the window. Because this item had approved hours in the billing period defined in the invoice header, it was automatically pre-selected for billing. If you uncheck the box, you will exclude it from the invoice. You want to invoice this item. Check the box again. Let's take a look now at a fixed fee item. In this case, the columns of the table will have the following definition. Amount now corresponds to the selling amount of your project item. This number represents the percentage of completion of the project item. Because this is a fixed fee item, it will now determine the percentage of the selling amount to be invoiced. As with time and material, this field represents the amount invoiced as of now. To calculate the proposal amount, PSA will take the value in the amount column and multiply it by the percentage to invoice. It will then look at what has already been invoiced and calculate the difference. The result will be displayed in this field. As with time and material, by default, the proposal amount will be displayed here. This time, however, you can overwrite the value. To invoice a different amount, you have two options. You can enter a different number in the percentage to invoice column. Note that the value entered here will not update the percentage of completion of the item. They are two separate elements and are treated as such by PSA. Now hit the Tab key. PSA will calculate the new amount. Your second option is to enter a different amount directly in the field This Invoice. Press the Tab key. PSA will accept the modification and process the invoice accordingly. Now go back to the very first column and click the magnifying glass. Because this is a fixed fee item, you will not access the detail of the actual hours here. These hours have no influence on the billing process, and as such, there is no reason to put them on hold. Click OK. Let's take a look now at the expense item of your project. This is a billable expense, and as such, the amount to be invoiced will be displayed in the column Billable Expenses. The value here represents the actual costs booked towards this project item. All the other columns will react the same way as with a time and material item. And since you can't put expenses on hold, it is not possible to modify the value here. Now uncheck the box Show Billable Items Only. You want to invoice part of your fixed fee expenses. Because the percentage of completion of this item was 0, PSA had excluded the line from billing. This item will react the same way as with a fixed fee item related to hours. You can modify the percentage to be invoiced or enter a new amount in the This Invoice column. Change the percentage to be invoiced, hit the Tab key, and let PSA calculate the new amount to be invoiced. You will notice that this line is now checked, and as such will be included in the billing. You have now completed the review of your billable items. If you are not ready just yet to invoice your project, simply click the Close button. PSA will bring you back to the project screen without saving the information and generating an invoice. This is not the case here. You are ready to invoice your project. Click OK. PSA will generate the invoice. In the General section, you will find the following fields. This number will identify your invoice until the invoice number below is assigned to your document, and PSA will only generate this number when the invoice is approved. You will recognize here the description entered in the last screen. And finally, the last fields of the General section have been carried over from the project. Leave the information as is. In the next section, you will find the details of your line items. And the section right below will display the totals of your invoice. In the top bar ribbon, you will find PSA Standard Invoice Reports. Select one. In the Report screen, you will be able to print or convert the file into different types of documents. For example, into a PDF file that you can email to your client. Close the report. You are now in your invoice. Hit Save and Close. Back in the project screen, go to the Invoice section. Click on the link to load the invoice records. You will find your latest invoice displayed here. You have now generated an invoice for a single project. Your next step is to go in Assistance PSA and do the corresponding exercise in the step-by-step guide, The Fundamentals.